Audiobook. To listen from within is to hear the God or goddess within. Audiobook. Now, somewhere in there, I'm listening within to see like the stitching on the fingerprint, how it led up to like this big loud bang. And I work my way to like this fingerprint that's a beaker that explains 2 to 4 stories in one. Like the stories add up, but it's still the same character. Like a continuation of a graduation of like hearing multiple, like from 5 to 10 to 15 audio chapters on like the being of like the mom and the hand of the milk that was squeezed into the chambers of like this heartache that rushed Reggie to the emergency room in his top privateer. Now, as we work on like hearing within, like to actually hear like the water rush, you hear like this giant splash. It's kind of like your fingertips ramming against your privateer, but you're not strong enough to actually move the fingerprint with the skin to the privateer in the same molecule of a beaker of a fingerprint, or ovulation, or a ring, or a string, sting, bing, of zing, zaps, twings, tings, tingling, over marks. Like the cleaner the bubble or the streak of the design play symbolizes like this formula in the think chamber of how the brain works with the pineal gland, and who was more of the devious like formula of like hearing the serene serenity of a sped up like heart of a moment that explains how to like feel the unreal as imaginative imaginary player in this like game of like Bruce Lee Chambers. Like to put all you have in the nth of a length of a wave of a stitching on a fingerprint to the point it turns up every molecule you have in a cell DNA structural cellular mode, that every cellular mode you had, because you're like this omniscient character that when you blast it, it comes back like the sincerity of sharing, shining vessels of like moving fingerprint skin to the back of what the knuckle will work its way down the blue omni glow into a beaker of a formula down the vein of the wrist. And the more it fill up, it's because you're absorbing air, water, wind, lightning, any individual stream of like a DNA cell feather structure is crest into like this beaker that hears like from within all your notes in like a solidarity of a book chamber in the hand that develops like characters, specificity, foundation, fountains of youth, air, water, being, everything was moved from the hand of like a glass, but a beaker, to like the hair of like just thought, of like a tattoo of a thought. Like the tattoo was the hair, but the hair, when it moved, it had like this jizz effect, like when it splashed. And that's how I did all over my body, all over your body, that it formed a purity in your tongue of a splash. Like the purity just kept intensifying against the splash all over the top half of the top private chairs from the hands to the fingerprints. But it zoomed the fingerprint into like the ovals of the McDonald's bag. How bad could you get McDonald's to quit? Like to make it from one end of the fingerprint to the baby fingerprint and one safe in the emergency room. Like, how much do you feel like a emotional torrent of a storm building up that breaks branches, trees, legs, all that? To break all of it off into like a thin string of like skin in the most gentle, soft, angelic way you can, of hearing like the mind speak to the child as a God before the baby develops and hears like this chamber of like goddess form into like this molecular DNA structure of a strand of a voice that heard all, knew all, was all from within the body without thought. It took over the mind and body without thought in the darkest, secretive locations of the island of the palm tree that was torn in half because of the last drop of the beaker having to undevelop character. But as the character undeveloped, what did you see evolve? And when you see it evolve, lock it back where I have it, where it says all the oval corners formed into that thing. No matter what, just be it. You may not know what it was. I'll tell you, it was the mind of the thought. That the brain took over the body without thought and somehow formed like this listening chamber to hearing all the pores of your lungs floor into like this gas chamber of escapism through like a wall of jizz, found mountains climbing, urethra screaming, breathing, huffing, puffing, breaking, buffing, tearing, stuffing into a McMuffin of love that just couldn't quit jumping. Now, somewhere in the book, it was only at midpoint, but at midpoint, you see how it swells up into like this feature of hearing, knowing, being all in the light of day. But what hid in the escape route on your body was like this system that hears all, knows all, bees all, does all. And if you absorb the foul in one piece, that if you make it back in one piece, that it would love everything that you've ever built up to, like the times were way too crescent. They overflowed and flooded in a splash effect and a purifier of a beaker that let the spark to the brain of the child that made it think. Even I could form jizz at some point because of the heroism of like this blooded sponge into every thought of within the mind, that it formed like this oval track where I was just rapping my ass off. My kids were, so we just in there going hard, back, tag teaming at the speed of sound, that it developed like this character of superhuman strength and developed like the baseline on the hand. The more the fingers move, you feel like this fiber optic bone form into a metallic shield of like a pen that's colorful. Now, if your foot get numb, because I'm stepping on it with all my strength to show you all fouls are not human fouls. They are hidden and way too good. Now, you looking at it, you see how it's locked in a stone in your foot. Stone it in ways you cannot understand, like foot areas, and get all the juices out of it and rush that to the penile emergency room, and all your body became flooded by the penile emergency room till you see what again? Your mom. The end.